All right, let's just jump right in. So, you've seen those absolutely incredible pictures from the James Webb Telescope, right? And then you look through your own telescope for the first time and thought, huh? If that sounds like you, well, you've come to the exact right place. Today, we're going to close that gap. See, this is where every new astronomer starts, kind of caught between two different skies. On one hand, you've got what I call the Instagram sky, you know? It's all brilliant colors, razor-sharp details, a masterpiece. But then there's the backyard sky. That's the real deal, what you actually see. It's subtle, it's quiet, and honestly, it's often just a faint smudge. And that disconnect, that's the biggest hurdle for almost everyone starting out. And if that quote sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. It is such a common feeling. You get the new scope, you point it at something you've seen a million pictures of, and your first thought is, wait, that's it? And look, it's not your fault. It's probably not even the telescope's fault. It's a problem of expectations. Yeah, there's a name for this. We call it the expectation gap. Think about it. A generation ago, astronomers were looking at blurry photos in magazines. The view in the eyepiece was actually better than the pictures. But today, we're primed by these perfectly processed, high-definition images that have been stacked and tweaked for hours. We've set a benchmark that a simple, real-time view just can't ever meet. Okay, so this is where we need to totally reframe the goal. This is the key to everything. You are not trying to look at a pretty picture. You are on a live hunt. The real thrill is in finding that faint little smudge and really knowing that the light hitting your eyeball has traveled for millions of years just to end its journey right there, with you. And that is a connection, a feeling that no photo can ever give you. So how do we get started on that hunt? Well, it all begins with having the right tool for the job. So let's get into part 1, choosing your first telescope. And don't worry, this is way simpler than you think. Okay, if you only remember one single thing from this whole section, make it this. Aperture is king. It's just the diameter of the telescope's main mirror or lens. The easiest way to think about it is like a bucket for catching raindrops of light. The bigger the bucket, the bigger the aperture, the more light you catch, and the more light you catch, the fainter the objects you can see. It's that simple. And that brings me to the biggest, most common myth in all of beginner astronomy. A telescope is a light bucket, not a magnification machine. You know those cheap scopes you see in department stores bragging about 600x power? They're basically just selling you a lie. Cranking up the magnification on a small scope just gives you a big, blurry, shaky mess. Light gathering power, aperture, that's the real deal. So you've got 3 main ways to go here, all for under $500. First, if you're a purist and just want the best possible view for your money, you get a Dobsonian, like the Heritage 150p. It's all about maximum aperture. Now, if you're worried about finding stuff, the Celestron StarSense is brilliant. It uses your phone to guide you right to the objects. And finally, if what you secretly want to do is make those cool photos yourself, a smart telescope like the ZWO Star does all the hard work for you. It's a choice of what kind of experience you want. Now, just as important as what to get is what to avoid. We call these hobby killers. And the #1 fun killer, the absolute worst offender, is a flimsy, wobbly mount. If the image is shaking every time you breathe on it, you're gonna give up, I promise. Also, you wanna stay away from scopes with known optical issues, like the infamous PowerSeeker 127 EQ. And just ignore boxes stuffed with cheap, useless plastic accessories. All right, so you've got a good scope. Awesome. Now comes the really important part. Let's talk about what you're actually going to see out there. Welcome to part 2, setting the right expectations. So your first real wow moments, they're gonna come from right here in our own cosmic neighborhood. And the best part is, they're bright enough to punch right through city lights. The moon is incredible. It's not a flat disk, it's a 3D world, especially along the terminator, that line between light and shadow. Jupiter will show you its cloud belts and its 4 big moons, and you can literally watch them move from night to night. And then, there's Saturn. The first time you see those rings, I'm telling you, it's a moment that will stick with you forever. It just looks impossible. But once we start looking deeper, Beyond our solar system, things change. You'll hear experienced astronomers talk about faint fuzzies. It's an affectionate term for galaxies and nebula, and it perfectly sets the scene. The beauty isn't loud, it's subtle. The real reward, the real fun, comes from the thrill of the hunt for these little ghostly patches of light. Which, of course, brings us to the big one, the Andromeda Galaxy. It's the most famous deep sky object out there. You can even see it without a telescope if you know where to look. It's often the first galaxy people try to find, and it's also one of the biggest sources of that underwhelmed feeling. Okay, let's just tackle this one head on. The expectation from all the photos is this giant, majestic spiral galaxy. The reality in a small telescope is a big, faint, oval-shaped smudge with a brighter middle. You are not going to see spiral arms. And listen, that is totally okay. You are still looking with your own eyes at a city of 1 trillion stars, 2.5 million light years away. That's incredible. So what about color? Why aren't you seeing those amazing pinks and blues from the photos? Well, it has nothing to do with your telescope. It's all about your own eyeballs. See, your retina has 2 kinds of light-detecting cells, cones and rods. Cones see color, but they need a lot of light. Rods are amazing in the dark, but they are completely colorblind. So when you're looking at a faint fuzzy, you're using your rods. The universe, to your eye, is in black and white. And that actually leads us perfectly into the last piece of the puzzle. You can have the best telescope in the world, but it's only half of the instrument. The other half is you. So let's build your observer's toolkit in part 3, because your skills are just as crucial as your optics. Okay, I'm just gonna put a number up on the screen. 30. What on earth could that be about? This is probably the single most important and most overlooked skill you need to develop for seeing faint things in the sky. That's how many minutes, 30, it takes for your eyes to get fully used to the dark. It's a slow biological process. And this is so important. That night vision is super fragile. One quick look at your phone screen or a white flashlight and it's gone. You've reset the timer back to 0. That's why you see astronomers using those dim red flashlights. Your night vision cells aren't very sensitive to red light. Okay, you ready for your new observing superpower? It's called averted vision. Here's the crazy part. The very center of your retina is packed with those color-seeing cone cells, so you actually have a blind spot right in the middle of your vision for really faint things. Weird, right? The supersensitive rod cells are all around the edges. So by looking a little bit away from an object, you put its light on the most sensitive part of your eye, and it just pops into view. So here's how you do it. Try this next time you're out. Center a faint fuzzy in your eyepiece. Now stare right at it. Watch it fade away, maybe even disappear completely. Now, keep your attention on the center, but shift your eyes just a little to the side. And like magic, there it is again. Usually brighter and clearer than before. This technique is an absolute game changer. All right, I'm gonna give you a pro tip now, and it's gonna sound way too simple, but I promise you it makes a world of difference. Your most important accessory isn't a fancy eyepiece, it's a comfortable chair. If you're hunched over and tense, your eye is shaky and you can't concentrate. Being relaxed and steady lets your brain really soak in the image. Seriously, old-timers say a good chair is almost like adding 2 inches of aperture to your scope. It's that effective. Okay, so you've got the right gear, you've got the right expectations, and you're starting to build the right skills. You are so ready to get out there. But, you know, this is just the beginning of the journey, so let's wrap this up with your next steps. My biggest piece of advice is don't do this alone. Grab an app like Stellarium or Sky Safari to see what's up in the sky tonight. When you have questions, which you will, jump on a forum like Cloudy Nights or the Telescope subreddit. But honestly, the #1 best thing you can possibly do is find a local astronomy club. Looking through other people's telescopes and learning from them will accelerate your journey like nothing else. So I want you to leave with this thought. That little faint fuzzy in your eyepiece, it isn't an underwhelming failure. It's a profound success. It's a stream of ancient light particles that have crossed the unimaginable void for millions of years with only one destination, your eyeball. You're basically a time traveler. So the only real question left is, what are you going to hunt for next?